Welcome back, Dreadfuls. I'm Jean,
Derek.
and this is the Dr. Dread podcast where we explore all things unusual, unsettling, and unexplained. And I think you've been waiting for this one, Derek.
Yeah, probably.
Guess what we're doing tonight?
What?
Satanic Panic.
Let's go.
All right, if you don't know, the Satanic Panic was a moral and social panic that resulted in eventually over 12,000, let that number sink in, unsubstantiated cases of what came to be known as satanic ritual abuse, or SRA. And so it started in the United States in the 1980s and spread through many parts of the world by the late 1990s. And you can still see the influence of the Satanic Panic persisting today.
Wow.
Yeah. So nearly every aspect of satanic ritual abuse, or SRA, is controversial, including its definition, the source of the allegations, the proof of it, the testimonies of the alleged victims, the court cases involving SRA, and the criminal investigations. So basically everything involving the Satanic Panic as it relates to the courts and the criminal procedure is very controversial, and we will talk more about that. But one interesting thing about the Satanic Panic was it did initially bring together widely different groups of people that normally wouldn't be interacting with each other very much, including religious fundamentalists, police investigators, child advocates, therapists, and clients in psychotherapy and psychologists. So a bunch of different people all got in on this.
Huh.
All right. Before we get to the interesting part, we got to cover a little bit of the boring stuff, because I do think it's important to kind of understand the background, sort of the social climate of the time where how the Satanic Panic emerged.
Didn't it start in like the 60s or the
Okay,
70s?
well, the Church of Satan was founded in 1966 by Anton LaVey, and we will get to that in a minute. But to truly, I think, appreciate and understand the rise of the Satanic Panic, I think you have to understand what was going on with religion and evangelicalism in the 80s and 90s as well.
Oh, really? It goes that far?
Yes, you gotta understand that to really understand the reaction that people had to these allegations of Satanism and satanic abuse.
Okay.
Okay. So in the 1970s and 1980s, we saw a rise of evangelical Christianity. So evangelicalism is a branch of Protestant Christianity that emphasizes a personal relationship with Jesus, salvation through faith, and of course, the importance of evangelicalism, or the spread of the gospel. You're trying to bring Jesus to everyone else and spread the good word.
So like those like preachers on TV, essentially.
Oh yes, we will get to the televangelists in a minute. But yes, they are a product of this evangelicalism. So it really started because conservative Christian fundamentalism by the 1960s and 1970s had become somewhat of an isolated movement in American culture, and a lot of Christians were rather distant from the more secular trends in society, and they wanted a way to reach out and sort of start interacting and influencing society again. And so evangelicalism was more able to adapt to modern challenges than strict Christian fundamentalism. And we saw it when evangelicals really became involved in politics in the 1970s and 1980s. They were motivated by strong beliefs that they needed to take a stand against what they saw as the moral decay of society. And to do that, they'd have to get involved in politics. So this led them to start supporting specific political candidates that happened to align with their conservative social values.
Oh.
Yeah, so before this, I mean, religion has always played a part in politics, even though our founding fathers didn't want it to. Religion has always been there in politics, but in the 1970s and 1980s, it became more, I guess, less. I guess you could say less veiled about it. It's more directly, yes, we like this guy because he's a Christian.
Oh, so
Yeah,
it's
where
kind of like that.
yes, where people in the evangelical movement were specifically supporting somebody because they have good Christian values.
What qualifies as that?
Well, we'll get to that in a minute, but before we do that, I have to say I hate this so much because this is exactly what the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment wanted to protect against. They did not want the entanglement of church and state, and so people supporting candidates basically solely because of their religion. I hate that so much. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, we'll get to what they wanted. But one of the most significant developments came in the 1970s with the creation of what they called the moral majority in 1979.
What's that?
The Moral Majority. It was a political organization designed to unite evangelicals and other conservative Christians to influence public policy and counter what they considered the liberalization of culture at the time.
They create a whole like
It was basically a whole almost political party.
wow.
Yeah, they didn't have their own political candidates, but it functioned as almost a political party in supporting whatever candidate most aligned with their religious beliefs,
So they're kind of like picking and choosing their candidates.
which is still going on today. That is, I mean, look at the Christians in support of Trump right now. It is still exactly what's happening.
Well, I mean, he played them really well.
He did, granted, he did play them well, but you want to know how that came to be? This is where it started.
Wow. You know, I'm waiting to see the return of Trump's trash truck. Like now that he's in office, I just want to see the return of it.
Okay, I am waiting for the return of the trash truck as well.
It would be like the greatest return of American history. It's like, by God, it's the trash truck. It's back.
It's back. That would be great. So you asked about the things that these evangelical leaders wanted. Well, they argued that secularism, which is basically moving away from religion at all, and liberalism were undermining traditional Christian values. So they wanted to influence public policy in areas such as abortion, school prayer, and family law. Does any of this sound familiar?
Yeah.
It's
The school prayer thing, it's like, you know, when I'm in school, it's like, even when I was younger, I never had a school prayer.
okay. When I was going through school, I do remember they didn't have a moment of prayer because there were issues about about there were establishment clause issues with that. There were issues about you know equality among the religions there. So what instead they did was during morning announcements we'd have a quote moment of silence.
Same.
Yeah, so you had it too. Yeah, that's what basically what the moment of silence was for. It was a stand-in for being able to say, okay, take a moment and pray.
Wait, what? I didn't see it that way. I kind of saw it as, oh, we're taking a moment of silence for the country or something. I don't know.
No. The daily moment of silence is what the schools basically compromised on because people argued against them, saying, let's have a moment for daily prayer.
Well, you know, clearly it didn't work on me because I didn't know that.
Well, I think we also just didn't tell you that that's what it was for.
Well, even the school didn't either. They're just kind of like,
again, equal protection of religious of religions issues. They can't come out and tell you, okay, it's a moment for prayer, but we can't just say it. That would defeat the purpose of having it and calling it a moment of silence.
that is fair. But to be honest, I don't think half of the kids in my school probably wouldn't have cared.
That I know. Honestly, when you're a kid going through school, you don't really care much about that, but that's what it was.
We kind of use that as like the 10 minutes before we have to, really use our brains.
Yeah, that's mostly what everyone in our school did with it as well. Nobody really did anything with it. It was just kind of there. But again, that was the compromise on prayer in schools. So anyway, in addition to arguing for school prayer, the evangelicals also played a role in creating Christian schools, homeschooling movements, and various religious broadcasting networks that sought to provide alternative sources of information and education from a Christian worldview.
Oh, it's so like the Christian broadcast. It's like those TV channels you stumble upon at like 3 in the morning.
Yes. Yes, with all the televangelists begging you for money. Yes. That's what that is. But really, things kind of took a turn in the evangelicals' favor with the election of Ronald Reagan in 1980. Blech, can't talk. 1980. While evangelicals up to this point had been wary of supporting particular candidates, Reagan successfully convinced the evangelicals that he was their vote by emphasizing family values, traditional morality, and a strong stance against abortion.
Oh, so he kind of played them too.
Yeah, Trump, I think, took a lot from Reagan's playbook as far as playing the religious right to his favor. Yeah,
that kind of makes sense.
Especially among the older generations, there is still a cult of Reagan who think Ronald Reagan was the greatest thing to ever happen to the presidency.
Didn't he talk weird? Didn't he have like a? Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else.
I think you're thinking of somebody else.
Trying to think. I don't know.
But anyway, that is the political climate. And then you asked about the televangelists. We'll get to the televangelists in a little bit, but also during the 1970s and 1980s, we saw the rise of mega churches for the first time.
We're talking like the huge churches.
Oh yes,
like the multi-million.
Oh yes, the big ones. Evangelical Christianity underwent a period of rapid growth and diversification, and that led to the megachurches that we're now all familiar with. New Christian ministries, increasing the popularity of Christian bookstores, publishing houses, and contemporary Christian music.
You know, back to the televangelist for a second. I remember one Sunday waiting to watch football. It's like 20 minutes before pregame.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, just turn on the channel, and it's this televangelist right before football.
Yeah. Yep. They worked really hard to get their programming out there when people would actually see it. So yeah, mega churches, often with large congregations, even up into the thousands of members. And honestly, I think some of the mega churches have tens of thousands now, so they've just continued growing. And these churches mostly focused on attracting middle-class families. They started bringing in the contemporary worships that we now know, the ones aimed at targeting the youth, social programs, and positive, uplifting messages.
Kind of like the ones that like you think have like the power of God, and then they make you like jump out of your chair. Are we talking about those?
Those are definitely some of them. Yes.
Those are pretty cool.
Yes, because those are some of them, and like you mentioned, they also embraced modern marketing techniques. So yes, those are the ones that you would see when you're flipping channels, waiting for a sports game or whatever, and a televangelist happens to be on before the sports game.
Yeah, he was pretty annoying.
Oh yes, and while all this is going on, while you've got the evangelicals getting involved in politics, you've got the megachurches developing, they're all preaching what they called the prosperity gospel, or also known as the word of faith movement. And this emphasized the idea that faith, especially positive confessions and donations to religious ministries, would result in material blessings and wealth and health and success.
So is this like a... Is this kind of like a... I don't even know what I'd call this.
It's a be a good Christian and give money to the church, and God will return the favor and multiply your wealth.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was thinking when you first started talking about that, I was just thinking like this is a different Bible or something.
Nope, it's not a different Bible. That's just another thing that kind of worked its way into all of their teachings.
So how could they do that and teach about the Bible at the same time? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it does. The prosperity gospel does seem kind of contradictory to a lot of the more traditional tenets of Christianity, doesn't it?
Yeah, that kind of doesn't make sense
Yeah, how
because
you're
it's
supposed to reject worldly things and put your faith in God and the Holy Spirit, and yet now they're telling you, oh, but if you're a good Christian, God will reward you financially.
so it's kind of opposite of what I was wanting essentially.
Yeah, if you go back to traditional Christian teachings where you aren't supposed to be overly attached to worldly things, yeah, it is a very interesting contradiction.
Well, maybe he has his maybe God changed his mind. Maybe he just wants money now.
Yeah. Well, that's apparently what the prosperity gospel is arguing is, hey, God changed his mind. He wants his money too, and if you give God his money, he'll return the favor to you.
He's like, fuck it. It's been a few hundred years. You know what? Fuck it. We're going for the money this
Mm-hmm.
time. It's kind of like the old church. It's just like, oh, okay, yeah, we're not asking for much. It's like, oh, we can get this much?
I think that's pretty much what happened. Yeah.
I mean, you know,
So yeah, so that's going on, and while all the rest of this is going on, like you had mentioned, the Christian shows that pop up on TV and stuff, the evangelicals also got involved in the media and entertainment industries. The contemporary Christian music industry exploded in the 1980s with artists like Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith, and Sandy Patty becoming prominent figures in both Christian and mainstream music markets.
what was that last one? Sandy who?
Sandy Patty.
Who the fuck is that?
So it was a Christian artist. Okay, you grew up post like radio era when you had to actually listen to music on radio. Okay, but I grew up when if you didn't have a CD player, you had to actually just listen to a radio station in your car, and everywhere you went, no matter what city you were in, there was one station that was a Christian radio station.
Well, I listen to the radio sometimes and you still see those, but it's like, who the fuck is Sandy Patty?
It was a Christian artist, okay? But yeah, so in addition to the music, yeah, but yeah, just to tell you how prevalent this was, my mom used to listen to the Christian station in Katy near Houston where we grew up, and to tell you just how prevalent this was, I still remember the radio station, the number and everything, 89.3 FM KSBJ.
Wow.
Yes, I still remember. That's how prevalent this stuff was. You couldn't get away from it. But yes, in addition to the music, you had evangelicals also producing all their own films, television shows, and books that would cater to Christian audiences. And so this marked the start of a more sophisticated Christian entertainment industry that would continue to grow. So think Pure Flix.
Never heard of them.
Basically, it's the Christian version of Netflix. They have all their own self-produced movies and TV shows.
Oh, so it's like those shitty indie movies.
Yes, yes, but all from a Christian perspective.
Man, that must be wild to watch.
Oh yes.
Like you turn that on at 3 a.m., it's like you're going on a trip.
But yes, that's what it was. And you talked about televangelists. One of the biggest televangelists at the time was Pat Robertson, and he actually founded the Christian Broadcasting Network.
Holy shit.
Yes, a whole network broadcasting Christian programs. And he was the host of a show called The 700 Club, which was a news/talk show program that featured live guests, daily news, political commentary, Christian contemporary music, and testimonies and ministry. So basically, like an all in one televangelist show, news show, talk show, all from a Christian perspective.
What defines the 700 Club?
The 700 Club.
What defines it? How do you enter the 700?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't remember ever actually seeing the show. That's just what it was called.
I would love to talk to this dude. I want a definition of like how did I join this club?
Yes, I want to know why 700, and yes, how do you join the club? But yes, on this 700 Club show, Pat Robertson would frequently warn people about the dangers of Satanism, occult practices, and the infiltration of demonic influences in the media and schools and entertainment in general.
So you're telling me I was influenced by the devil by watching fucking Mickey Mouse?
Well, I don't know if they had a problem with Mickey Mouse so much, but among the things that he complained about were activities like playing Dungeons and Dragons and listening to rock music could lead young people to satanic worship.
Okay, we're talking two different spectrums here. One has a wide variety and one kind of has a wide variety. But how does Dungeons and Dragons and rock music combine? It doesn't. Last time I checked, it doesn't. Those two don't mix well.
You might have a bunch of people playing Dungeons and Dragons who just like to listen to their Metallica or something.
Okay, Metallica is not Satanist because they talked about the
No,
Bible.
they're not. They're not, but they are a rock band, and so during the Satanic Panic, they would have hated them.
They talked about the Bible.
That's probably why Metallica was hated during this time, because they're literally talking about the Bible, but they're a rock band.
But aren't they spreading your word?
This is why media literacy is so important. Because, yes, they have songs like Creeping Death that are literally just talking about one of the plagues of Egypt, and yet people think it's satanic and that it's bad simply because it's a rock band doing it.
Well, oh, I think I know why they don't like it. It's the original Bible.
You mean the Old Testament?
Or the Old Testament.
The original Bible? Well, remember, the Old Testament is still very much a part of the Bible, so they claim that too.
Not really, not anymore. They don't want to talk about it anymore because, God kind of went AWOL, I think.
Yeah, granted, if you actually take the time to read the Bible, Old Testament God is a very different beast from New Testament God, but that's beside the point right now. Anyway, so the rather boring part of this is over. I think it was just important to understand kind of the background of what else was going on at the time when we get to the Satanic Panic stuff that we're going to get to now, because this is the background in which the Satanic Panic emerged. And knowing that all of this is going on, I think helps explain how prevalent the views of those who got caught up in the Satanic Panic became and how they spread so quickly.
This reminds me when I think of Satanic Panic, I think of those shows from the 70s and 80s where they're playing like Led Zeppelin backwards.
Oh, yes. We will talk about that. We will talk about that.
Those are pretty cool because they would start freaking out. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm. We will get to that. So we're gonna go over the things that they were freaking out that they thought were evidence of the occult and Satanism taking over your youth. So starting off with books and other media, we have movies like The Exorcist, released in 1973, that was based on the 1971 novel by William Peter Blatty of the same name, about a demonic possession of a young girl and the attempts to save her life through exorcism.
Well, see, I see that movie in a different way. I don't see it about being Satanism. I see it about being it's like God trying to prevail and save this woman. That's how I think they would have saw it, but apparently they didn't.
Well, again, that's what it was ultimately about, was, defeating the devil, but people saw that as evidence of Satanists trying to take over. And I don't think it helped that The Exorcist did as well as it did. Ironically, the fact that it was such a good movie and did as well as it did, I don't think helped the Satanic Panic, because it was the first horror film to be nominated for a Best Picture Academy Award.
I didn't know that.
I did not know that either until I researched this some more. But yes, it was the first horror film to be nominated for Best Picture. It won Best Adapted Screenplay, the Academy Award for that, and it was the highest grossing R-rated horror film, once adjusted for inflation, of course, until the remake of It came out in 2017.
Wow, that's a pretty good streak.
Yeah, so The Exorcist did really, really well. And great, it's still a classic horror movie. You can't be into horror and not have seen The Exorcist. So you have that. You have another movie that came out in 1968 called Rosemary's Baby, about a newlywed woman who becomes pregnant only to find out that her pregnancy has been influenced by a coven of witches and that her baby is, in fact, the Antichrist.
Well, that must have been a crazy fucking week.
Yeah, that's some crazy stuff right there.
It's like, oh, I'm gonna have a kid. Oh, it's the Antichrist.
Oh, it's the Antichrist. Yeah. And then another movie in 1976 called The Omen, very similar premise, about a couple whose child dies just like almost immediately after it's born, and the hospital chaplain convinces them to adopt another child whose mother had just died in childbirth as sort of a replacement for their child that died. But this child turns out to be the Antichrist.
Wait, why can't we have a good story about the Antichrist? Why does it have to be all messed up, jumbled up, somebody's dying?
Because it's the Antichrist. Do you really think there's going to be a good movie about the Antichrist?
They could have done something about it. They could have been like, okay, yeah, the devil hit a bat flip and then boom, he appeared.
Okay. Oh, okay. 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 Good Omens.
Yeah.
Good Omens. That book is technically about the Antichrist, and that one actually ends well.
Well, it wasn't a TV show?
It was based on the book. The book came first.
Oh. Well,
But yes, they did turn it into a TV show. That was the one with David Tennant and Michael Sheen as Crowley and Aziraphale. Yes, you're thinking of that one. But yes, that was a book first.
Wasn't David Tennant the devil?
Okay, he was a demon named Crowley. He was not the devil, but he was a demon.
Oh. They were, it's pretty weird that a demon was going to stop the Antichrist.
Well, he got used to living on Earth with the angel, and they actually got to like living on Earth, and so that's why they wanted to stop the Antichrist. And the Antichrist just grew up as a normal kid. He got swapped at birth with another baby, and they thought the other baby was the Antichrist, so he grew up normal and realized he liked living on Earth too, and so the Antichrist didn't want to bring about the apocalypse.
He just kind of had like a choice or something.
Basically.
Where's the button? How does this start? What does he just like hit a bat flip and then Armageddon comes or something?
Well, Armageddon's basically just coming, and then and he's supposed to like welcome it in, and he basically just decides like, no, because the devil shows up, and he's like, my son, start the apocalypse, and since the kid didn't grow up knowing he's the Antichrist, he's like, the kid's just basically like, you are not my dad, Satan, bye.
Oh, well, shit.
Because his dad, the one the kid grew up with, was his dad.
Too many plots in this story. It's confusing.
But hey, you asked about a good ending, a good movie with the Antichrist. That one's a good ending.
Well, I wasn't talking about like a good ending. I was talking about like a good story, like a good story that anybody could like pick out.
That one is a good story. We don't talk about one of the authors anymore, but Terry Pratchett. I mean, you can't go wrong with Terry Pratchett.
Fair enough. I don't know why. I think the devil could be I think he could be like a very good person at hitting a bat-flip.
Okay, if you're talking about someone hitting a backflip, yes, I would imagine that the devil would be very good at that.
Yeah, it seems like he'd spend his free time on that.
Well, if he's the devil, he's conceivably had a lot of free time to perfect his backflip.
Well, I mean, he's probably mastered it now.
So, yeah. Okay, so we got movies. Then there was a book called The Satan Seller that was released in 1972 by Mike Warnke. We'll talk more about him right now. It was a supposed memoir in which he claimed to have led a group of over 1,500 Satanists that engaged in all manner of debauchery, including rape and human sacrifice, before he converted to Christianity during boot camp after joining the Navy.
What?
Yes. Of course, that became a bestseller, especially among the religious types. And so Warnke rose to fame in Christian communities and ended up starting his own ministry.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, but his book was debunked. In 1991, Cornerstone magazine launched an investigation into Warnke and the claims that he made, and came up with quite a few inaccuracies and evidence of fraud and deceit in his ministry's accounts.
Oh.
Yeah, so first of all, he's committing fraud with his ministry. Surprise, surprise. Also, pictures of Warnke during the time that he was allegedly a Satanist priest were discovered. He was not the emaciated, drug-addicted, long-haired, long-fingernailed hippie that his book claimed. He was just a typical dude in those pictures.
What?
Yes.
He went to Satanist church.
That's what he was saying.
Wow. This is... Wow. I'm speechless. This dude is just...
Oh yeah, this dude is wild. Also, he did not have the education that he claimed to have. After high school, apparently he enrolled in the San Bernardino Valley College, but withdrew after one semester when he joined the Navy. Yes, but over the course of his rise in fame, he first started claiming that he had 2 bachelor's degrees, then it was 2 master's degrees, and then it was eventually a PhD.
He just... I really wonder. He reminds me of Hulk Hogan in so many ways because they never tell the truth.
He just kind of makes stuff up. He kind of does. He's like the Christian Hulk Hogan. But yeah, and also one of Warnke's claims was that he and Charles Manson had attended a satanic ritual together. That was false because Manson was in federal prison at the time that he claimed it happened.
What?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. I don't condone making up things like this, but if you're gonna make shit up, do your research, my guy, and at least make sure that what you're saying happened could have happened.
Well, it's like Hulk Hogan saying Elvis Presley was a fan of his. He actually said that.
Yeah, Elvis Presley was a fan of his from the grave.
Apparently.
Okay. So yeah, there was that book, and then there was another book that we will talk about more a little bit later because this is the one that really sort of kicked off the Satanic Panic. This book was called Michelle Remembers, and it was another purported memoir by Michelle Smith and her psychiatrist Lawrence Pazder, allegedly detailing the recovered memories that she recovered during her sessions with him of satanic abuse. And we'll talk more about that book later.
No offense, but this sounds like we're about to go on another wild trip.
Oh, this one that book is a wild trip. We'll talk about more about that in a minute because that is recognized as one of the major catalysts of the Satanic Panic.
Oh, Jesus, here we go.
Okay, so yeah, those were the types of media that were being complained of in the Satanic Panic. And I mentioned Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, they were complaining about Dungeons and Dragons, which is a tabletop role-playing fantasy game. Basically, players create unique characters, and a dungeon master guides them through a series of adventures. Like World of Warcraft, but basically a board game instead of on the computer.
I cannot stand board games. They are boring.
Fair enough, but I'm just telling you what Dungeons and Dragons is.
No offense to this woman. If this actually happened to her, I feel bad, but it's like, she saw how good that dude's what sold. She's like, oh, I gotta hop on this trend.
That, the Warnke book was in 1972, and then Michelle Remembers was in 1980, so her and her psychiatrist very well could have been influenced by it.
They're like, ooh, we got to come up with some good stories
that
here.
Very well could have been part of the case there. But yeah, back to Dungeons and Dragons for a minute. In 1985, Patricia Pulling, who was an anti-occult campaigner from Richmond, Virginia, and a psychiatrist named Thomas Radecki, who was the director of the National Coalition on Television Violence, the same ones that had problems with Beavis and Butthead.
Jesus.
And not a federally funded organization, despite the way the name sounds. They got together and created a group called BAD, BADD. Bothered, bothered about Dungeons and Dragons is what it stood for.
What the?
Yes.
They sound like some shitty like gang from New York. Don't go down that street. I'm trying to get a New York accent. Hey, don't go down that street. The bads are there. The bads are there. I owe money. I can't go down there. The bads.
The BADs. I didn't make up I didn't make that up.
Oh, come on, Tony. It's just the bads.
I didn't make it up. So anyway, the organization BAD viewed role-playing games in general, but Dungeons and Dragons specifically, as satanic cult recruitment tools. And they said they were inducing youth to participate in things like suicide and murder and satanic ritual abuse.
I don't think Dungeons and Dragons is connected with those sort of things.
No, it's not. Actually, there was an analysis of youth suicide done over like this period in question, like the 1980s, 1990s, and it found that people who actually played role-playing games had a much lower suicide rate than compared to the average. So not only is it not connected, they are just wrong.
Where are they getting this information off of? They're just like coming up. They're going to a board meeting. They're like, okay, let's just find some of the craziest numbers possible. We're just gonna roll with it.
Yeah, it was really just made up because it's like, oh no, there's fantasy elements in it. It's a fantasy game. Yes. Okay, but again, just to give you an idea of how prevalent this was, I actually remember my mom once warning me about Dungeons and Dragons. I was like maybe 10, 11-ish at the time. And she said something to the effect of like, oh, people who play that game get to where they can't tell the difference between fantasy and reality, and they do all these crazy things. If anyone tells you to play that game, no, you tell them no, you don't want to play it.
If you have issues between telling what's real and what's fake, you probably need to go do a reality check with yourself.
Yeah, I remember when my mom told me that, even at 10, 11, however old I was, thinking, what is going on with this game that it can make people truly get confused between fantasy and reality?
Well, maybe there's some secrets we just don't know.
Like, there must be some absolute fuckery going on with this game. I didn't think the word fuckery at the time because I was 10 or 11, but yeah, I was thinking like there is something really weird going on if people actually think that this game can make you confuse fantasy and reality.
Well, I don't know how Mick Foley doesn't have CTE after all the shit he's been through, especially taking 11 chair shots to the head in one match.
That is a lot of headshots.
So if he was like if he couldn't tell what's real and what's fake, I wouldn't blame him because Mick Foley has taken some crazy shit in his time.
Yeah, that I would believe be getting confused between fantasy and reality. Playing a board game, no. And yeah, so I never played D&D because for reasons. For mom reasons. But anyway, when I got on TikTok around, I think it was 2020, I joined during the pandemic. Because I am the nerd that I am, it took the algorithm about 0.5 seconds to land me on Dungeons and Dragons TikTok. And it's just a bunch of nerds playing a fantasy game, is what I've learned about Dungeons and Dragons. It's just a bunch of nerds like me playing a game. There is nothing satanic about it.
Not until you go to their secret lair.
Even in the secret lair, you just fight a really big dragon. There's nothing satanic about it.
No, the secret lair in real life called their basement. Basements matter. Basements matter. Can we start?
Basements matter.
Can we start a movement about basements? Can we just make a movement called Basements Matter?
Basements matter.
Check your basements wherever you go to and be like, hey, can I see your basement? And if it's well kept up, it's like, okay, this person might be a little weird.
Okay, maybe that's the real tell of whether you're a Satanist or not. What is the state of your basement?
Hell, I don't know if, well, you know, maybe if you have posters like Tom Ellis or something, maybe that should raise an eye. I don't know.
What if you're in Texas and have storm shelters instead of basements?
Oh, shit. Wait, same thing. If you just have pictures of Tom Ellis or something, you know, he played the devil for 5 seasons in a TV show.
He did. So yeah, that concludes Dungeons and Dragons. And this is the one I think you were interested in. Now we're going to get on to their complaints about music.
Yeah.
So yes, a lot of popular music, especially metal, was accused of promoting Satanism. Because metal bands like to use occult imagery. They like to use pentagrams. They like to use references for Satan, either as a form of artistic rebellion or for shock value or to intentionally provoke people.
To be fair, there had been some bands that were legit Satanists. There had been some, but 99.9% I would say no.
Yeah, but basically, bands like Black Sabbath, Slayer, and Merciful Fate were all cited as evidence of promoting satanic worship.
Fucking, they target Ozzy.
Oh yes, we will get to Ozzy in a minute. Oh, they definitely targeted Ozzy.
Well, Ozzy did have a lot of issues, so.
Ozzy had a lot of issues, but Satanism was not one of them.
Well, you know, it makes me think of like some bands now that would be well received back in the day.
You were thinking of one in particular?
I'm thinking of multiple, actually.
Okay.
Just like Slipknot. Like if Slipknot was around in the 80s.
Oh, yeah, Slipknot would not have, the people would have not done well with Slipknot.
Ghost.
Ghost would have gotten kicked off the air in the 1980s and 1990s, my dude.
Trying to think. What else? Who else?
As openly mock satanic as Ghost is, they would have gotten kicked off the air. That would not have happened in the 80s and 90s. But yeah, in addition to just the general aesthetic of metal bands, critics were claiming that some metal songs contained hidden messages when played backward, and what was known as backmasking, especially like Led Zeppelin and Stairway to Heaven. For some reason,
I was referencing that earlier.
You were, and yes, you called it. They did. But Led Zeppelin and Judas Priest were the ones that were most accused of this backmasking.
I have never listened to Judas Priest.
Really?
No, I've never been interested.
No. Well, these accusations were so rampant, and the 1990s, there was a trial where Judas Priest was sued after 2 teenagers attempted suicide, allegedly inspired by hidden messages in their music.
Probably what Judas Priest said is, what?
Probably. There are many cases. We'll get to more cases about this in a minute, but there are many court cases that are going to have to be their own episode out of this Satanic Panic thing.
Well, you know, it's like, it also reminds me of like, the shows I was referencing earlier. They would make fake audio of saying like something satanic and playing it just so they could get a shock reaction.
Yeah, well, that's like I said, that bands often used occult imagery and stuff either for artistic purposes or for pure shock value.
Yeah, but have you seen like those shows that I would talk about that would like play those hidden messages, play the songs in reverse? They would actually like create stuff to say something satanic.
Oh, you mean like create their own messages and put it in there and say, oh, look, it's a satanic message?
Yes, they would actually do that.
That doesn't surprise me.
I've gone down that rabbit hole of watching those videos. These people are crazy.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Like, I wouldn't have been surprised if they were hitting bat flips. They were just like, you know, they were just like dancing.
No, that does not surprise me, and it does not surprise me that, and it is, like I said, there are still elements of the Satanic Panic that persist even today. Okay, so in addition to the lyrics and the general aesthetic, and bands that were seen as like openly mocking Christianity. You also heavy metal was seen as sort of promoting rebellion against authority figures, including parents, teachers, and religious leaders, and that was a no-no to the Christians.
What, saying like, I don't want to go to church?
Basically.
You know, if Weezer was there back in the day, I think they would have had Weezer satanic. And it's just fucking Weezer.
Yeah, you know things are bad if Weezer's satanic.
I mean, to be fair, I've never listened to Weezer.
I had a lot of friends who listened to Weezer, and I would like tolerate it when they played it, but I've never really been into Weezer either.
Weren't they just a bunch of nerds or something?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, they were just a bunch of nerds. No, they're like we said, none of this was actually truly satanic. But then yeah, I told you we'd get to Ozzy. Some people claimed that metal music encouraged depression, suicide, and self-harming among teenagers. And Ozzy especially came under fire for this, with songs like Suicide Solution.
Poor Ozzy.
Poor Ozzy. Yeah. So some of the lyrics that I think they had a problem with were wine is fine, but whiskey's quicker. Suicide is slow with liquor. Take a bottle, drown your sorrows, then it floods away tomorrows.
I think that song was about Ozzy talking about his addiction.
It is. I'll read you some of the lyrics that tell you that, yeah, it's about Ozzy fighting with addiction, but yeah, here's the stuff that the evangelicals would have taken and said, oh, look, it's satanic. Evil thoughts and evil doings, cold alone you hang in ruins. You thought you'd escape the reaper. You can't escape the master keeper.
Just listen to the rest of the song.
Yeah. So here's the stuff that tells you what it actually is. Because you feel life's unreal and you're living a lie. Such a shame, who's to blame? And you're wondering why. Then you ask from your cask, is there life after birth? What you saw can mean hell on this earth. Now you live inside a bottle. The reaper's traveling at full throttle. It's catching you, but you don't see. The reaper's you and the reaper is me.
Hello? Can we just, like, listen to the song, please?
Yes. And no, we can't, copyright reasons.
Oh, I'm just talking about those people. They need to listen to the song.
Okay, yes. They need to listen to the song because, yeah. Again, media literacy. Those last bits of lyrics are tell you, yeah, he's talking about his own addiction and how he knows he's killing himself with his drinking, but he keeps doing it anyway.
I think Ozzy's still alive, if anybody's wondering.
Oh, yes, he's still alive.
Somehow.
Don't forget Mr. Crowley. That really, really pissed off a lot of them.
Oh, yes, Mr. Crowley pissed him off, too.
I like Mr. Crowley. That was a good song.
That is... most of Ozzy's songs are really good songs.
Oh.
Suicide Solution was a good song.
What's Mr. Crowley about?
Aleister Crowley.
Oh, the dude.
Yes, the dude.
I know Aleister Crowley. There's a wrestler that based off his gimmick off of Aleister Crowley a little bit.
Okay. Which wrestler was that?
Well, oh, shit. Well, he was called Aleister Black in WWE, but in AEW he called himself Malachi Black. But he's kind of out of AEW, so he might go back to WWE. So he might be Aleister Black again.
Okay. Well, yeah. If you don't know, Aleister Crowley was an English occultist, magician, poet, novelist, many things. But basically, he founded the religion of Thelema and identified as a prophet and entrusted with guiding humanity into the Aeon of Horus. So, basically just a weird occult dude.
Is he the one who did that pose? He did that pose?
Yeah.
You can find that on the latest album of Ghost, Impera.
Yes. But yeah, so before we go further and we talk about Michelle Remembers and then many of the court cases that came with the Satanic Panic, I think it is important to go over the actual beliefs of Satanism and see what exactly it is that everybody was freaking out about so much.
I'm kind of curious.
Okay. So, Satanism generally refers to the worship or reverence of Satan or satanic symbols, and its meaning and expression can vary widely. But basically, there are two broad schools of thought in Satanism. There's theistic Satanism, which is the literal belief in a literal Satan as a deity or supernatural being, often, seen as the god to be worshipped. And then there's atheistic or symbolic Satanism, where they don't believe in a literal Satan. They don't believe in a supernatural entity the way Christians believe God exists. Instead, Satan is just used as a symbol of individualism, rebellion, rational self-interest, and personal empowerment.
Is that all of them?
Nope. That's just Satanism generally. But the Church of Satan, which is the one they were mainly concerned about,
Yeah.
was founded by Anton LaVey in 1966, and that was actually, they were all worried about Satanism and devil worship and satanic rituals, but the Church of Satan was an atheistic Satanism movement. Didn't actually believe in Satan himself.
Yikes.
Yes, and instead Satan was meant to represent individualism, reason, and self-interest.
So it's basically saying, don't listen to those people on the other side, essentially.
Yeah, so basically the interpretation of Satanism that was prevalent in the Satanic Panic was not at all what the Church of Satan was. Here are the 11 satanic rules of the earth. Basically the Church of Satan's version of the 10 Commandments, except it would be the 11 Commandments, but because there's 11 of them. But so here are their rules. Do not give opinions or advice unless you're asked.
To be fair,
I know. The Christians could learn a lot from that.
don't say shit to me. It's like, okay, I don't want to hear this.
So, yeah, there's number one. Number two is do not tell your troubles to others unless you're sure they want to hear them.
This just sounds like reasonable advice.
Like I said, the Church of Satan was a representation of individualism, reason, and self-interest. So a lot of this is just good advice. Number three, and these were actually written by Anton LaVey himself. So when you get to some of these wordings, it's not me, it's him. When in another's lair, show him respect or else do not go there.
Layer. He means house.
But yes, he means when you're in another space, be respectful of it, which again, reasonable.
Reasonable advice, man.
Yes, if a guest in your lair annoys you, treat him cruelly and without mercy.
Okay,
Yeah, okay, that one's a little questionable. That one's a little questionable.
What if I agree 10 out of 11?
A more reasonable interpretation might be if someone's annoying you in your own house, you have the right to kick them out.
I guess that's what he means.
That's a more reasonable interpretation of it. But yes, so that was number 4. Number 5, do not make sexual advances unless you are given the mating signal.
Well, yeah.
Which is a really weird way of saying consent, basically. But again, you can't argue with this.
Well, yeah, if you don't want to be in prison.
So number 6, do not take that which does not belong to you unless it is a burden to the other person and he cries out to be relieved. Don't steal people's shit.
Oh, okay, fair. Yes, I agree with
that's
that.
it. Don't take shit unless someone says, please take it.
It's like, dude, I don't want this coat hanger. Take it.
Yeah. So number 7, do not complain about anything to which you need not subject yourself.
Don't
just complain about shit for the sake of complaining about it.
Fair enough. That's fair.
Yep.
These commandments are short and they're helpful advice.
Yeah. Do not harm little children.
He's basically just saying, he's giving you advice, not how to go to prison.
I know, he's just giving you advice. Do not kill non-human animals unless you are attacked or for food.
So he means farmers and just don't go poaching, essentially.
Yeah, he means, if an animal attacks you, fine, or if it's for food, fine, but otherwise, no animal abuse.
This guy is just, he's giving you good advice. He's trying to keep you out of prison. He's trying to keep you out of jail.
He is. He's trying to keep you out of prison. And then when walking in open territory, bother no one. If someone bothers you, ask him to stop. If he does not stop, destroy him.
Oh, okay.
Up until that last bit, again, good advice.
Could I be this dude's editor? Should I like, I would edit this website for him to take out some parts he wrote because, this could be interpreted in a bad way.
Yeah, again, except for that last bit, but when walking in open territory, bother no one. If someone bothers you, ask him to stop. If you stop there, reasonable advice.
But then he says destroy them.
But then he says if he doesn't stop, destroy him.
Maybe he means destroy them by, confuse them. That's what I'm interpreting.
Yeah, a more reasonable interpretation, destroy their worldview.
There you go.
There you go. So, yeah, that is the Church of Satan that was established in 1966 by Anton LaVey. And that is the Satanism that the Satanic Panic was so concerned with.
He's just trying to teach you how to be a good person.
Yeah, so basically, the Church of Satan just has a bunch of rules about how to be a basic, decent human being.
Yeah. Well, I think there might need to be one more commandment to, help you find out how to deal with some situations. What if you're, in, a storm shelter or something because a storm came by and somebody's just being really annoying.
I think that might fall under the when in open territory bother no one, or it depends on whose storm shelter it is. Are you in the other person's storm shelter or are they in yours?
Well, does it really fucking matter?
Yes, because you have when in another's lair, show him respect or don't go there. Or if there's a guest in your lair and he annoys you, treat him cruelly and without mercy. So yes, it depends whose lair the storm shelter is a part of.
Well, really, would it matter at that point once the tornado comes through and wipes everything out?
Okay, if a tornado's wiping everything out, probably not.
See? It's too broad. He needs definitions. We have events, we have wildfires. What are we supposed to do?
Okay. Yeah, he didn't go that far into commandments for natural disasters.
To be fair, the Bible didn't either.
True. So anyway, that was the Church of Satan that was so scary to everyone in the 80s and 90s. And they weren't around during the Satanic Panic, but I do think it's worth mentioning because the Church of Satan is one of the big major satanic organizations, but another one that's gained a lot of prevalence now is the Satanic Temple. The Satanic Temple. They were founded in 2013. They are another non-theistic religious movement, so they don't believe in Satan as a literal being. But they use satanic imagery to actually promote the separation of church and state. And they're known for trolling the religious right by taking advantage of Christian campaigns.
Okay, then.
Yes.
Good. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. So again, they, like the Church of Satan, they have a set of rules. They have their 7 tenets that they abide by. One should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason.
Fair enough.
Yeah. The struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions.
So, if someone murders somebody, I don't know what he's...
No, I think that's more in the vein of if there are laws that you see as unjust and especially discriminating against one group or another, you should protest against that.
Okay, fair enough.
So one's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone. So bodily autonomy. Can't argue with that.
Okay.
The freedoms of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. To willfully and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of another is to forego one's own.
Okay, well, it's oh man, well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people abiding by those rules, so maybe maybe there's a lot more Satanists than we think because look at sports fans. They do that all the time.
Yeah, they do. Okay, sorry. So moving on. Beliefs should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. One should take care never to distort scientific facts to fit one's beliefs.
Oh yeah, he's calling out the Christians.
Oh yeah, yeah, Christians. People are fallible. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that might have been caused.
Fair enough.
Can't argue with these. And last, every tenet is a guiding principle designed to inspire nobility in thought and action. The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written or spoken word.
This one's a little more confusing.
Basically, it's just saying these rules are guidelines. Lead with compassion, wisdom, and a sense of justice over what's actually written here.
Oh, well, that's fair.
Yep. So, but yes, the Satanic Temple, these are the guys that just recently, when lawmakers in Florida and Texas passed laws to allow religious chaplains in public schools, these are the guys that sent representatives from the Satanic Temple to tell them in no uncertain terms that if these laws were going to pass, then they would be pushing to have Satanic Temple chaplains included in these religious chaplains in public schools.
That is funny.
Yes. So Lucian Greaves, who is the founder of the Satanic Temple, and Lucian Greaves is a pseudonym, by the way. He doesn't use his real name. He says, if they pass these bills, they're going to have to contend with the ministers of Satan acting as chaplains within their school districts. We think the public should know in advance that that's what the outcome of these bills can be.
So he's basically saying like, hey, if they had the Bible in school, they should include for the Satanists.
Yes, he's saying if you're going to have chaplains in schools, then you have to apply equal protection to all religions as required by our First Amendment, and we're going to send our chaplains there as well.
So what if their chaplains just dislike the entire series of Lucifer? That would be the best option because that show is just cool.
That would be funny. Yep. So then he also, Lucian Greaves also said wrote in a letter to Osceola County School Board, which was a school board in Florida. He said, it has likely become clear to you from your recent legal consultations that the most effective way to avoid both religious discrimination and the presence of ministers of Satan in your campuses is to avoid incorporating religion into public schools altogether.
He has a very good point.
He has a very good point. And it actually worked. The Osceola County School Board rejected the proposed school chaplain program. And the Satanic Temple had an article about it on their website.
Saying, hey, we stopped them.
Yeah, basically saying, yep, we did it. They rejected the school chaplain program.
That's kind of cool.
Oh, it's funny. These are also the same guys that when Arkansas installed a statue of the Ten Commandments outside their state capitol, they went and put a Baphomet statue up there too.
Oh. Oh. Just set it right beside it.
Yep.
These are guys who just have too much time on their hands.
Okay, as someone who went through law school and fully believes in that the separation of church and state is a good thing, I can't argue with what they're doing.
Yeah, you don't want church and government
No,
mixed into one.
you don't. No, we don't want that. And so I can't really fault them for anything they're doing.
They just probably look like the most normal people on earth, and they're just in their free time they're doing this.
I know it's really funny and kind of badass and really kind of brilliant that they're using like the Satanic Temple and images of Satan and satanic imagery to freak people out and realize that, oh, maybe we don't actually want religion in our schools and our government if these guys are going to be there.
Yeah, they're like, you're forgetting us.
So, yeah, it's actually kind of awesome, and I can't fault them for that. But actually, before we move on and get back to the Satanic Panic, I also just think it's funny that there's apparently quite a bit of beef between Anton LaVey's Church of Satan and the Satanic Temple.
Oh shit!
Yes, there is a lot of beef between them. So this is the Church of Satan's statement on the Satanic Temple, direct from the Church of Satan's website.
Wait, hold on. You know what they need to do? They need to drop, like, you know how rappers, like, talk shit about other rappers in their music?
Yes.
They need to drop metal songs talking shit about the other parties.
That would actually be really funny. They're kind of doing that with their websites, though. Here, let me read it. This is the Church of Satan, so the Anton LaVey Church of Satan statement on the Satanic Temple. They say, the Satanic Temple is a self-described yes men. First of all, a self-described yes men, not yes man, but I'll let that slide. A self-described yes men styled satire/activist group that uses satanic-themed imagery and language to get media and public attention. They are not Satanists. They do not have shared, quote, deeply held beliefs, and are unrelated to Satanism, a globally recognized religion founded in 1966 by Anton Sandor LaVey.
Wow.
Yeah. And here is the Satanic Temple's message on the Church of Satan. With unfortunate regularity, the Satanic Temple is confused with an earlier organization, the Church of Satan, founded by Anton Sandor LaVey in the 1960s, to the apparent chagrin of both. The Church of Satan expresses vehement opposition to the campaigns and activities of the Satanic Temple, asserting themselves as the only true arbiters of Satanism, while the Satanic Temple dismisses the Church of Satan as irrelevant and inactive.
Got a point there. Has a point.
So
they should be uniting.
So, yeah, I just think this beef between them is funny.
You know, I have a feeling like they're not taking it seriously. They're just kind of having fun.
Yeah, it feels like the Church of Satan is taking it very seriously, and then the Satanic Temple is more just having a laugh at it.
Well, you know,
that's the impression I get from both of those.
I can't wait for the Church of Satan dropping a metal diss track. We're gonna have it's gonna be awesome. They're gonna have 7 strings.
This is gonna be a 7-string guitar song.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Temple might win because I think they're gonna go 8 strings. I think they're gonna go even heavier.
Oh, okay.
I'm waiting for those diss tracks. I really am. This better happen.
That would be hilarious if that happens. Okay, so anyway, back to the Satanic Panic. I told you we'd circle back to that book Michelle Remembers.
Yep.
We're gonna talk about Michelle Remembers because, like I said, this is what really kicked off the Satanic Panic movement.
Well, what did she really remember, though?
We don't really know.
Well, then she didn't remember shit.
We'll get into that, but we don't really know what she remembered.
Well, if she didn't remember the things that were in the book, she didn't remember. So she's lying to everybody that she remembered when she didn't remember.
Pretty much, but let's get into it. So, Michelle Remembers was published in 1980 by Canadian psychiatrist Lawrence Pazder and his patient Michelle Smith. And the book was supposed to have been chronicling Pazder's therapy sessions during the late 1970s with Michelle Smith, who had been his longtime patient. And it really started when, in 1976, Pazder was treating Smith for depression. She had had a miscarriage and had a lot of depression relating to that, which that we know is true. That is very sad and a horrible thing for anyone to go through. But allegedly, during one of her sessions with Pazder, Smith said that she felt like she had something important to tell him, but couldn't remember what it was.
What she was trying to tell him is she saw Satan do a backflip. I was there.
You are not far off from some of the things she allegedly remembered.
I was there.
Okay, so soon after that session, Pazder and Smith had another session where Smith supposedly screamed for about 25 minutes nonstop and then eventually started speaking in the voice of a 5-year-old.
So you're telling me, like, are we talking highs or lows? Like, what kind of male scream?
It does not say. It just says she screamed nonstop for 25 minutes.
Damn. I really want to use that in a song.
But according to Pazder, over the next 14 months after that, he spent more than 600 hours with Smith using hypnosis to help her recover alleged memories of satanic ritual abuse, or SRA, which I'm just going to call it from now on because it's easier, that occurred when she was 5 years old in 1954 and 1955 at the hands of her mother, Virginia Proby, and other members of a satanic cult there in Canada.
Scenes from a memory.
Scenes from a memory.
1928?
Well, 1954 and 55, but
Well, one was about a murder and one's apparently where she
about a
remembered.
non-existent satanic cult. But the book,
Oh, it was debunked?
it was very debunked.
Oh, yeah, Michelle's...
We will get to the debunking in a minute, but it was very debunked.
Well, you know, this dude, he lost all my credibility. He lost all of it.
Oh yeah, he very much lost it. But the book chronicled the therapy sessions between Pazder and Smith, and these are the alleged recovered memories that she had during those sessions. She said they said that Smith was abused by the Church of Satan, purportedly a worldwide organization predating the Christian Church.
Ooh, you're not looking good so far.
Yes, and this Pazder guy, the psychiatrist, he eventually had to apologize to Anton LaVey and the Church of Satan for this, because he claimed it was all the Church of Satan in this book. But remember, this supposedly happened like in the 70s, and Anton LaVey only founded it in like 66, and there was confusion over whether, or no, the abuse supposedly happened in like the 50s. Remember 54 and 55? Anton LaVey didn't found the Church of Satan until 1966.
See, you know why they got away with it? You know why Church of Satan got away with it? They were still underground. They were underground band. They were building themselves up, and they didn't have enough recognition at the time.
Yeah, so this Pazder guy had to eventually apologize to Anton LaVey over that, because he claimed it was the Church of Satan and they weren't founded yet.
They were on SoundCloud. That was the thing. Is
They were on SoundCloud.
yeah, they are underground.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm getting back to it because these allegations are not a laughing matter, but calling Anton LaVey and the Church of Satan on SoundCloud is. So anyway, abuse by the Church of Satan. The first alleged ritual that Smith endured occurred in 1954 when she was 5 years old. And then she said there was eventually one final 81-day continuous ritual in 1955.
Well, that just doesn't make fucking sense.
Yeah, that already is not terribly believable. But she said this ritual, this 81-day ritual, supposedly summoned Satan himself and involved the intervention of Jesus, the Virgin Mary, and Archangel Michael to send Satan away and also remove the scars that Smith received throughout the year of abuse and blocked her memories, quote, until the time was right.
Damn, everybody showed up.
Everybody showed up.
Well, you know, from what I know, Michael and Lucifer don't like each other.
Well, again, this was Satan. And remember, Satan and Lucifer are technically two different entities. But Michael probably doesn't like Satan either. So I think that's kind of a moot point.
Well, you know, this is just getting interesting. She saw the whole gang. The whole gang showed up.
The whole gang showed up. You got Satan, and then you got Jesus, Mary, and Archangel Michael.
Do they have the van? The Scooby-Doo van?
Okay, if they did, she doesn't say they had the mystery machine, but if they didn't have the mystery machine, I would be disappointed.
Well, you know, since they all showed up, fuck, the mystery machine was there.
I know. Okay.
Shaggy made an appearance. And the
Shaggy
dog.
and Scooby too. Why not?
Yeah, they showed up.
So all of that happened. And the book also claims that over the course of this year, while she was, allegedly being victimized by this cult, that Smith was tortured, locked in cages, sexually assaulted, forced to participate in various rituals, witnessed several human sacrifices, and was rubbed with the blood and body parts of the sacrifice victims.
Damn.
Yes.
Well, I just gotta go back on the 81-day ritual. So does the ritual still count once they go to McDonald's to pick up food?
Instructions unclear. we don't know.
Or does one person have to stay there to keep it going?
I assume they had people kind of rotating continuously. But anyway,
That
so
means they must have never slept for 81 days, which you would be dead by then.
you would be dead. So, but yeah, I assume they had people rotating on shifts through this 81 days. But we will get to more about this supposed 81 days in a minute. So after the book was published, it was first publicized in articles both in People magazine and the National Enquirer. The fact that the National Enquirer wrote something about it should tell you everything you need to know.
I don't know about them.
The National Enquirer is like the biggest ridiculous tabloid magazine out there.
Hulk Hogan and Joe Biden wrestled.
Yes, it's a magazine that would run something like that.
Hulk Hogan for president.
Yeah. And then they got it in People magazine, but then it was also in the National Enquirer. But anyway, so during the year of 1980, after they published the book, Pazder and Smith toured the United States promoting it. And wouldn't you know it, it was a huge success. So much so that in 1989, Oprah Winfrey featured Smith as a guest on her show, along with another woman named Laurel Rose Wilson, who was the author of an equally fictitious story called Satan's Underground, another alleged memoir about her own satanic abuse.
Satan's Underground? Man, he's running an underground artist.
He's running it underground.
He's running. These are where all these good metal artists come from. Satan just like, he's like a producer for them.
Yeah, so yeah, that book published in 1980 became wildly successful, really kicked off the Satanic Panic. But I told you it got debunked.
Yep. What
Okay.
if Michelle didn't know about this? Michelle's like, what the fuck?
Didn't know what?
Her therapist was gonna post this.
Oh no, she wrote the book with him. So
Oh.
yeah. Yeah, and actually we'll get into it a little bit, but them together is another reason that this whole thing is very questioned. So, but we'll get to that. So, in October of 1980, a magazine article in the magazine Maclean's, writer Paul Gresco interviewed Smith's father, Jack Proby, who denied all of the allegations against the mother, who she said was in the satanic cult, and also said that he could refute all the allegations of abuse in the book. And Gresco also noted that the book failed to make any mention of Smith's two sisters, Cheryl and Tertia.
Yikers.
Yeah, so already questionable because, this poor girl, Michelle, is apparently a victim of the satanic abuse, but what about her two sisters? The book doesn't mention them at all.
I'm gonna pull Hulk Hogan there. They didn't exist. They weren't there at the time.
Apparently not in this book. Let's see. And Gresco also noted that Pazder, the psychiatrist, and Michelle Smith had divorced their spouses and then married each other.
That's enough proof for me.
Shortly after the book was published. So, that right there gives me pause because no. I even have in my notes. No. In any professional, in any professional occupation, be it any sort of doctor, any sort of attorney, any sort of psychiatrist, you do not date your patients. That is like one of the biggest ethical tenets of any professional organization is that you do not date your patients or clients ever. So, ew, all the way around.
That just sounds like that sounds like bad client.
Yeah, that is just bad. That is bad. That is every kind of ethical violation on the psychiatrist's part. Just no.
That's a lot of ethical just went out the window.
Oh yeah. That is just no all the way around. But also their book failed to mention so this psychiatrist pastor is doing these, supposed hypnosis and recovering these memories, and she's talking about all this abuse, and yet he failed to inform the police. There were no police investigations or any attempt from pastor to involve the police and verify that this happened, and then have the appropriate people brought to justice for this.
They actually, I'm going to defend them here. They actually vanished from the face of the earth after this happened because Jesus came and he vanished them off the earth, so there was no police needed.
Oh, that's what happened?
That's what happened.
That's what happened. Okay.
That's probably what they would say.
So that was all in the 1980 article in that magazine. And then there was a book in 1995 that investigated it further. They found no newspaper records of an alleged car crash that happened in the book, even though the newspaper in the area where this would have happened at the time, just as a matter of course, ran reports on all vehicle accidents at the time.
They should have done their research.
They should have done their research. Former neighbors, teachers, and friends were also interviewed, and people from Smith's elementary school, and they found no indication of Smith being absent from school or missing for any lengthy periods of time, including when the 81-day nonstop ceremony was supposed to have taken place.
That must have gone crazy, though. They must have been listen to metal music.
They listened to metal music, and that's what led to them making all this up?
Yeah, they got influenced by Metallica. The devil took over them. They got influenced by Metallica. They listened to Ozzy, and all this happened.
And then there was another article in 2002 that was written about this, where the author explored even more things about Michelle Remembers that were unlikely. First of all, she'd said that the cult held rituals in the Ross Bay Cemetery quite a bit. And he said that's unlikely because Smith claimed she was screaming during all of this time, and yet nobody noticed, even though that cemetery is surrounded on 3 sides by residential neighborhoods.
Here we go. I'm going to reenact when they heard the screaming. What's that screaming? Oh, it's just probably a ghost.
But yeah, again, he also confirmed that Michelle was attending school during the alleged 81-day ritual.
Well, that doesn't make sense. Did they have a dude just stalking her through the window or something?
They have school records. They keep school records of kids when they attend.
Well,
so the school had records, and she was there.
Well, I'm just saying, if this ritual is going on, I'm just going to say it still was, and it's actually all true, and she did go to school. They just had some motherfucker stalking her.
I guess. But yeah, also, nobody else in this alleged satanic cult has ever been identified other than her mother. So there were a bunch of people taking part of it, and yet the only one she can identify was her mother.
Yeah, Jesus wouldn't let her remember those people because he banished them off the face of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're wondering, that's what it was. I was an eyewitness.
Yep, and then this author of this article also noted that many of Smith's so-called recovered memories appear to have represented elements of popular culture at the time, like from movies like The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby, etc.
If you're an eyewitness of this, you could have some hell of stories to tell.
Yeah.
I wish I was kind of there when they were writing this.
When they were making this up?
I was like, this is about to go hard. It's about to be an awesome book. They should have drew pictures in there and just shown what happened. This one went hard.
Yep, and then also, it appears that the psychiatrist Pastor spent a lot of time in West Africa before he did this, at a time when there was widespread concern about secret blood-drinking cannibalistic cults in West Africa. And so a lot of elements from that ended up in these accounts as well.
Buddy, pick a role.
Yeah.
Know your role. I just mentioned The Rock there.
There you go. But despite the debunking, Michelle Remembers was still widely considered to be true during the 1980s.
Well, that just doesn't make fucking sense.
Hey, I know, but people still believed it. And believe it or not, there are some people who still put faith in that book. But as a result of people believing in it so much, the psychiatrist Pasder was considered to be an expert in the topic of satanic ritual abuse. And so, with this new emergence of the Satanic Panic and SRA cases, most likely due in part to the publication of Michelle Remembers, his expertise was requested in a lot of the cases that we're going to talk about.
He just talks to like main guy. He's like, dude, I have no clue what the fuck I'm talking about.
So he got tapped as an expert in this stuff, even though a lot of it was made up.
He's like, you know what, this stuff happens. It's very common. You know, like this happens. So you just gotta get a drop of lemon juice, pour some water, and then mix up and put some more lemon juice in there, and then boom, you'll be fine.
Oh, just listen to this list of stuff he did because he was allegedly an expert. In 1984, he acted as a consultant in the McMartin preschool trial. We'll talk about that a little bit. He appeared on the May 16th, 1985 broadcast for the popular television series 2020 in a segment that only further accelerated the spread of the Satanic Panic. As part of the Cult Crime Impact Network, he conducted satanic ritual abuse seminars for police agencies during the 1980s. So he's telling the police this is the shit you need to look for.
Shouldn't he be arrested for like false information?
Yeah, a lot of this is And then by 1987, Pastor he had reported that he was spending a third of his time consulting on SRA cases, satanic ritual abuse cases.
Well, wow. Well, apparently there's a lot more than I thought.
And then it gets worse. Legal prosecutors started using the book Michelle Remembers as a guide when preparing cases against alleged Satanists.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, yes. Several social workers actually started attending training seminars that listed SRA as a major element of child abuse. Okay, and as if all of this was not odd enough, there was a 2023 article in a magazine called The Skeptical Inquirer, and that article talked about Michelle Remembers, and it said that it's still having an impact on people and negative repercussions. For example, the Hampstead hoax, which was a 2014 series of false allegations about a ring of Satan-worshipping pedophiles. Pizzagate, which was a conspiracy theory that went viral during the 2016 presidential election, that falsely claimed that NYPD had discovered a pedophilia ring that linked members of the Democratic Party while searching through Anthony Weiner's emails. And also, it contributed to the widespread belief in QAnon. So even though this book has been very resoundingly debunked, it's still influencing people.
All I gotta say is pizza time.
Pizza time.
Yeah, from Spider-Man.
Yes, I know. I talked about Pizzagate and you got pizza time from that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have gone longer than I thought we would, so I'm going to have to pause it there, and then we will talk about the further spread of the Satanic Panic, and then the legal cases that happened out of the Satanic Panic and how the Satanic Panic eventually came to a close in our next episode.